Hey, what's going on? This is Jeff England with the Public Affairs Office. And this week, we have with us the representative from the Religious Support Office. And we're going to find out all about the chapel and religious education. So stick around. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you are listening to this podcast, I am Jeff England from the Fort Johnson Public Affairs Office. And I have here in the podcast studio with me today, Krissa Gross from the Religious Support Office. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Krissa, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jeff. Thank you for having me today.
Of course. I always enjoy having visitors over here. And we're going to be talking about all this wonderful stuff that you got going on and maybe even some controversial stuff over there. Because I know how you like to be controversial.
Try not to be.
Oh, you're always there. You're always doing something that we have to question. It's like, what's Krissa doing today? So what's been new over at the chapel? We've got Chaplain Jeffries over there.
We do. We have Chaplain Michael Jeffries, who's there as our senior chaplain right now. And close to him is Chaplain David Meyer. And we are loving having both of them during this season. Absolutely,
yeah. And let's see, we got Thanksgiving coming up, and that is actually, it was invented in the 1800s. It was made by Abraham Lincoln in response to a request by a lady that wanted a national day of prayer.
Oh, I did not know that.
Amazing. And in order to make it American-wide or, nationwide without interfering with anybody's freedom of religion, he made it just a day of giving thanks. And that's how we got it.
And it's a wonderful season, too.
Yeah. I like fall. I don't like Christmas season.
Where's fall at? We need it to come.
Oh, please, please. I wish we had fall and spring. The only difference between fall and spring is the color of the leaves and the pollen.
Yes,
so
pollen.
But I like fall. I love fall, and spring I like as a close second. But summer is just too hot for me around here, and winter is just too cold for me.
Well, the great thing about Thanksgiving season in Louisiana is what do you get? Gumbo.
Yes. And gumbo. I'm going to be making some chili.
Chili and
yes, because I'm a chili guy.
That's great.
But I'm also a food guy. So, it's like if it's gumbo, jambalaya, chili, boudin, even hogshead cheese. I love it all.
Okay, I'll let you eat that. I'm not eating.
Oh, it was good. It's good stuff. It's kind of like crackling jelly. It's good stuff. So, actually, I'm going to ask the most obvious question because a lot of people think that RSO is the church. It is the chapel, and you're not quite that. You are the Religious Support Office, which to me says that you're not the chapel itself. Mm-hmm. You're there to ensure that everyone has their services according to what they desire or believe.
Right, according to what they need.
Yes. No, according to what they need.
Absolutely.
So what do you do at the chapel?
So that's a great question.
I know it is. I came up with it myself.
Yeah, and you did a fantastic job. So the chapel is actually the Fort Johnson Religious Support Office. And we exist as a team to either provide to perform or provide religious support to all of the service members, their dependents, and DoD civilians and retirees in our community. Religious support does not have a definition as in it's this religion or it's not, or it's that religion, or it's not this religion, or it's not that religion. We exist to support the needs of our community. So predominantly at the chapel, again, we don't say church and we don't say church service. We say chapel and worship because it may not always be the same religious faith group that is there practicing. And so we like to differentiate with our terminology there. But so we may have a Catholic worship service. We may have a Muslim prayer service. We may have a pagan worship service. We may have a Protestant worship service. And so our job is really just to find out what the needs of the community are and to find a way to make sure that they're receiving religious support. We also have lots of people who community-wide do not really prescribe to a religion specifically, but they are spiritual. And what they would tell you is that they are spiritual but non-religious. And so we also have a responsibility to take care of those people too. And so our whole job is about spiritual support and religious support through those practices.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So I've seen a lot of the different services that you guys offer over there, and one that I haven't seen a lot of is Jewish. Is there any Jewish services available here?
That's a great question. So right now we do not have a Jewish designated faith group leader. And so we're able to provide the resources that are local to us in Alexandria. We also have a thriving Jewish religious education program that's an Army-wide program that we can give people access to. Our designated faith group leader, who was here, is currently deployed, and so we don't have access to him. Whether that resumes when he returns or not remains to be seen. But really, there's kind of an ebb and flow, and we don't have religious support for a certain faith group here at Fort Johnson. We're able to go to our community and say, hey, are you interested in becoming a designated faith group leader? And really, we don't normally have to do that. They come to us because they see a need and a desire in their community, and they want to help us support. And so we clear those people and we give them the supplies and tools and resources that they need and support them through sponsorship and coordinate for them. Sometimes put them in touch with the resources of Fort Johnson if they're needing like PAO support or something like that. We would do that.
Well, that's when you would call us.
Yes, we would. Yeah, we put them in touch with you guys and get everything ready for them, and then walk with them through their journey as they provide that religious support alongside of us to the community. So
that's the walk with us. That's have you ever heard of that song Kyrie?
I have.
Kyrie eleison. You know what that means?
What does it mean?
God walk with me.
Really?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, or it's either God walk with me or Jesus walk with me, something like that. But
my wayward son.
It reminds me of that story about walking down the beach and seeing two paths or two sets of footprints.
Yes, footprints in the sand.
And then
beautiful story.
And then every time there was a bad time in my life, I would turn around and see that there was only one.
Yes.
I turned to him and I asked, it's like, why?
Been careful.
Why was I only seeing one every time my I had bad times? And that's when they looked at me and said, that's when I was riding on your back.
That's right. Pushing you along.
Just say,
they were carrying you.
No.
It's all right.
It's like they say God doesn't give you anything that you can't handle. Apparently he thinks I'm a Superman. But anyway, so you have a religious education, some kind, all kinds. I mean, that's almost what you're there for. But
so that's my whole job at the chapel.
Yeah,
I'm the director of religious education, and I like to say it's controlled chaos. We have
like wrangling cats.
It is a lot like wrangling cats sometimes, and sometimes the cats are 2, and sometimes they're 40. It just depends on the cat. But it's a wonderful job. I wouldn't be anywhere else in the world. I still feel excited to get up and come to work every day after 7 years as the DRE here and 10 years at the chapel. Never, ever, ever thought that I would be doing this with my life, but here I am.
And here you are.
Here I am.
It's like, did you ever believe for one day that you'd be talking to me on a podcast?
No, I did not. But I'm excited to be here. So what we do with religious education, a lot of people, they hear that term and they go like old school, formalized education about, for many of us, what we associate it with is like the Bible and, a nun standing over you or something like that. So religious education, that kind of programming, it exists to be able to build a bridge between our community and their faith. And so we want to breathe life into the practice of faith, and we want to help people build mutually enriching relationships inside of our chapel with like-minded people. And so we're really just there to kind of create space and opportunity for people to learn. And learning looks a lot different for everybody, right? Some people may learn by sitting in a small group and reading some text together and kind of discussing what they're reading. Some people may learn from something a little more chaotic, like Vacation Bible School, where we're running around and playing games and singing and dancing and doing all kinds of stuff. So religious education programming, while it looks very different in each group, the goal is to make a space for people to kind of connect and build that bridge between faith and community and make their faith just come alive and be very pragmatic in their everyday life. Religious education is a great field. Like I said, never ever thought I'd be here.
But 7 years later.
But here I am. And I learn something new every day.
It's got to be something worthwhile for you to continue to do it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And you've done a great job since you've been here. I never hear anything bad about you.
Well,
everything's all good.
That's
good. All the time. So what are some of the current opportunities?
So we are in a season right now. We finished up Vacation Bible School, which was great. We had fun with the kids, and it was all hands on deck. And we have kind of this very nice, peaceful lull for about 6 weeks.
So where was Bible school
It was here at Fort Johnson. We hosted about 85 to 90 kids every day. We had a team of between 35 and 45 volunteers working alongside of our team every day. And we had a great time. We did a Lego theme camp again this year, and just had fun. So yeah, it was exhausting, but it was great.
So who created the coolest Lego thing?
Well, there was a young man from our community. We actually kicked off the Vacation Bible School with a Saturday night where we invited the whole community to come in. We had a Lego museum. So people could build anything, they could bring kits, they could create something themselves, and we had an entire room where we had a museum gala with all these amazing creations. And we had this little boy, his last name is Finky, and I can't remember his first name, but he made this table-sized clone base.
Like from Star Wars?
Yes. And it was super elaborate. Like he had a section where the chow hall was, and there were people sitting at the chow hall. There was a cook in there with a stove. And then he had a place where the bunk room was. He had a place where the arms room was. It was incredible.
And all the soldiers looked alike.
They did. Well, some of them did. And I don't know how he did that. He probably really had to dig through the Legos. So he was our winner for the night, and just great to see him be so creative and so into it and want to share. And he had people lined up, and he was explaining every little piece of his Lego creation. So it was a great night. That was our winner this year for the Lego creation, and it was beautiful.
The only thing I could probably make, without instructions or a guide, the only thing with Legos I could probably build is like the Tower of Babel.
You could. It might fall down, so be careful.
And it usually does. It's like, what's that? A snake?
Yeah. Very pretty, Jeff. Good job.
But it has legs. No, it doesn't. So the services that you have, they don't all just happen on Sunday.
They don't, no. So, so that after that 6-week lull, after Vacation Bible School activities, etc., what begins to happen in the chapel, and we'll start next week, is Tuesday through Thursday night. The chapel's just alive. We'll start with our first kickoff will be Protestant Women of the Chapel on Tuesday, September 5th. And so that is a great opportunity. The ladies come in for worship in the morning. They break into fellowship time. They eat, share breakfast together, just spend time getting to know each other. And then they go into small groups. There are, I think, 6 different small group opportunities. And again, religious education, they're studying different books, all kinds of books. There are some that are books of the Bible. There are some that we're doing one this year called Boundaries. It's about setting boundaries in your life and your relationships with other people. And so it just really, it's kind of, you can pick and choose what you need with that group. And it's kind of a beautiful opportunity to just be able to come in and do that. And what we find is that ladies from Protestant Women of the Chapel, when they leave Fort Johnson, when they get to their next duty station, they plug right into their next Protestant Women of the Chapel. And so it's also kind of creates a network for people. There's something reliable and familiar when they go to the next duty station. So that's great. And then we just go the rest of the week. We just keep going. Wednesday morning, Catholic Women of the Chapel, which looks a lot like Protestant Women of the Chapel, but is specific to the Catholic faith group. small group opportunities, and great group of ladies. They follow it up usually with a living rosary at the end of the day. And they are accompanied by our Church of the Latter-day Saints small group for women. So we have a Mormon small group that comes in and meets alongside of them. And Wednesday night, again, the chapel, we have a break for lunch, and Wednesday night the chapel comes alive with about 11 different classes. From pre-K all the way up to adult classes. We've got youth group that comes in on Wednesday night. Our little explorers group, they're doing some really cool, this year they're doing cooking with Jesus. And so doing things like talking about whipping cream. We're going to show them how to whip cream and talk about how it takes patience to do it properly. And kind of tie that into a story from the Bible about wandering in the wilderness. So these kids are going to be able to get their hands dirty and just do stuff.
Whipping cream is like walking through the forest?
No, wandering in the wilderness.
Whipping cream is like wandering in the wilderness.
Yeah,
how do you get those?
You need patience to do that. If you whip cream too fast, it's going to get ruined. If you do it too slow, it will never be fluffy.
And if you don't run fast enough, you'll get eaten by a bear if you're out in the wilderness.
Good. So, but the point is that, these are just great opportunities for people to learn, to connect with other people. We have a community meal on Wednesday night. Again, the classes, there's just so many classes on Wednesday night. We're doing financial peace for people who really just kind of want to understand budgeting and how they can kind of make a track for success for themselves and their family. We have just a regular old run-of-the-mill Bible study, which is great. Some people just want that. We've got ladies' small group. We've got youth of the chapel. We're going to be talking about the book of James this semester with the teenagers and talking about how teenagers are wonderful to work with because they just want to know, just tell me the nuts and bolts of this thing. Just tell me, what does this mean to my everyday life? And so we kind of spend time walking alongside of them and just say, hey, here's X and here's Y, and this is how you put it together. And so very, very, very pragmatic with the teens. We have wonderful, lively discussions with the teenagers. Adults, we're kind of subdued and we sit and listen and we're shaking our head.
And you let them talk.
And teenagers just want to know. They just want to ask and they want to talk and discuss it and debate it. And it's a wonderful, beautiful thing to have teenagers in the chapel. So Wednesday night is it's a wild. We usually host about 80 to 90 people in the chapel that night. We eat dinner together, we go to class.
But no karaoke.
Well, that doesn't mean it won't happen. It just means it hasn't happened yet. We have a great time on Wednesday nights. And so then Thursday morning, we wake back up and we come back to the chapel. This is our second year of parents of little kids at Fort Johnson. And we do that on Thursday mornings. That is a religious education program that does not look like religious education. It doesn't look like small group time. It doesn't look like Bible study. It looks very chaotic. It's very loud. And it's a wonderful time. And we wrote the curriculum for that program because we really saw a need for young parents in our community who either weren't plugged in or didn't know how to access resources. And it started with a discussion about, in April, we had Month of the Military Child, and I was asked to come be a guest speaker at the program. And because of my time as a military spouse, I really truly believe that military spouses have a lot of dirty little secrets that we don't talk about that are very difficult spiritual matters to deal with. Things like anticipatory grief, things like depression, things like not feeling adequate as a parent, but not knowing how to handle that, not knowing who to reach for to get help. And so we had this amazing discussion that day about all of those things that we just don't normally talk about. And so we kind of started really breathing into this idea of why it's so important to have those difficult conversations. And out of that was born Parents of Little Kids at Fort Johnson. And so we sit down every year. The curriculum is never the same, but we come up with the list of problems that we think the community has right now. For our young community who, in that E2 through E5 range, where they have 3 and 4 little kids under their arm every day, and they're just doing the best that they can. And so how can we pair that up with some spiritual practices. Right now, the program is through a Christian perspective. Army-wide, that could be changing to be a little more generalized as the chaplain corps kind of gets a hold of that, but we'll see how that happens. But right now, we have a great family life chaplain who's teamed up with us, and again, we lean into the Christian perspective in this program and talk about things like, he says, hey, let's talk about finance, because as soon as your family is in financial trouble, it creates a tremendous amount of stress.
Yeah, lots of stress.
Yeah, it creates like a huge communication problem between you and your spouse. You start getting anxiety, you start worrying, like all of these
screaming and yelling.
All of these things start happening. You lay in bed worried at night. Am I going to be able to take care of this and that? And so, the family life chaplain comes in with our group and says, hey, let's talk about what happens in your home when you start having financial stress. What happens with communication breakdown? What are some things that you can do to avoid it? And then we pair up with some of our community partners. ACS will come in and talk to our group, our families that night about like what resources are actually available to them through the Army. And so we just kind of identify those problems, and then we lean really hard into them and bring what we hope the families need to them. And we do it all through a Christian perspective. And so we offer devotions. We have memory verses for the month. We have the family life chaplain who, again, brings in the Christian perspective. And it's just, again, it doesn't look like religious education. But what we're doing is we're giving people pragmatic skills, and we're helping them, and that to me is really just the most important thing that we can do. And if that help comes through the form of something that's faith-based, it's even better, because in my opinion, it's longer lasting.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that saying, give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, and you'll never see him again.
Right, absolutely. Yep.
And you'll know where he is on Saturdays.
Yep. Right there on the shore, or in a boat.
In a boat.
Yep.
In a boat.
Mm-hmm.
That whole financial problems, that really, it's amazing. And the other things that I see on online is a lot of infidelity problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, you guys need to get some help. And it's all the younger generation, they just, I think a lot of them just aren't mature enough to handle certain situations.
Yeah, you just don't know yet, right?
Yeah.
And we spend in February with parents of little kids at Fort Johnson, we'll spend the one evening. So again, one of the really cool things about this religious ed program is that we do date nights for couples. And so we bring them into the chapel, and we have childcare for their children. We just do things with them that they...
Karaoke?
But maybe we need to do that. We're going to invite you. It's going to be fun. It's going to be loud. But we do a marriage panel for those folks. And, one of the things that we forget about, because we are just like inside of our Army bubble, is that these young families don't have some of the things that maybe we had when we were younger. Like, they don't have mom or auntie across the street to have these conversations with. And many people are reluctant to have these conversations about, hey, this is going on in my marriage, and this stinks, and I don't know how to handle it, because they also don't want to, again, it's a cultural thing. They don't want to be perceived as weak. And so we bring this marriage panel in, and it's like no holds barred. Like, if you have a question, ask it. And we'll answer it honestly. We have some people who, my husband and I actually went last year and had some great questions. And we were just, again, going back to the core of we want to have hard conversations, even if they don't normally happen. We want to have them in an open place where people can talk. We want to be transparent. It's just very real. And so it was just a great opportunity. And yeah, we did talk about how our faith is a part of our marriage, but we also talked about, like, just because we're Christians doesn't mean we don't have fights at home. Like, we're just married folks. So, and people need to hear that. Like, it's okay. And so just, Fort Johnson, the Parents of Little Kids at Fort Johnson is just a really special program. It's new, it's growing. It has potential to go way beyond the walls of Fort Johnson. And so just really continuing to breathe life into that particular religious ed program. And then we get through the week and we feel like we're tired, but we just keep going, because on Sunday morning we even have religious ed then. We have CCD for our Catholic community after Mass. We've got children's liturgy for them during Mass. We've got Unity Kids, children's church during Sunday. And so, yeah, like you started out saying, Jeff, there's a huge misconception that the chapel's open on Sunday. And that's all we do.
That's all you do.
And that's not.
I went over there the other day and all the doors were locked. It's like, no, I'm kidding. So, I mean, do you guys get a day of rest?
Not really.
Even God got a day of rest. No. Come on.
Sometimes we'll take a rest on Saturday. Like this weekend is our last real weekend before things just start going. We're slammed until Christmas. So we all have plans to kind of lay low for the weekend. But yeah, we have a small team. We've got about 10 people on our team. And so we all love what we do. We have a great team to work together with. And the chapel is a special place. And it's still a place where people come for help.
It's busy, busy, busy.
It is, yeah.
Yes. And I like the idea of all the help you guys offer over there for, counseling for people. And seeing online, I would have to say some of these people need some help coping with the stresses of spouses being out in the box, and they're in there saying, "Oh my God, this is happening. And it's like, no, you're talking to the wrong people.
Absolutely.
Stop listening to the rumors. Go talk to some real people. How do I handle this? Will this happen? No, I can't get this. It's like, go RSO.
Yeah. Come to the RSO. We will help you. We have a great family life chaplain that does counseling. He can do it with your family. He can do it individually. It doesn't have to be faith-based, but it can be if you need it to be. His name is Chaplain Jeremiah Snyder. He is fantastic at what he does. We also, all of our chaplains have the ability to counsel. And so, we think about like the World War II era, I can't speak, but the era when they built, we don't have any more on Fort Johnson anymore, but when they built chapels, small little chapels that look just like the one you could find in your home community. They did that for a reason. They built them all over every installation in the Army. And it was so when people saw that, they would associate it with help because that's where they went for help when they were home. That's where they went for community. That's where they went to gather. That's when they went when big things happened in their lives, marriages, funerals, baptisms, celebrations, all of those things. And so our real heart is to continue to be that place in our community where people come for help, no matter what faith they are. Help is help. And so we want to be able to walk next to people, whether we're teaching them new things in religious education or it's just a time where they need to come for quiet. We can give that to them too. And so, again, what we do is real special for our post, and our heart is to be able to just walk alongside people and encourage them and be next to them and be that place of hope, that place on top of the hill that we like to call it. So
carry a lesson.
There you go. Yep. I'm gonna have to play that song today.
Yeah. I love that song.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like there's a lot of help over there, no matter what you're looking for, what you may have or what problems or questions you might have. And of course, you don't need to have a problem to go over there either.
No, you don't. You can so one cool thing about our chapel is, first of all, we want your kids to be there. And we don't care if they can walk or they can't walk, or they want to touch everything or they don't want to touch anything. They want to hide behind you. We want everybody in our community to feel like that is part of their home. That's part of their community. And so you can come there, just like we have books out in the vestibule right now for people to just come pick up whenever they're free. You can just come and sit in the gazebo and let your kid play for a little bit. You can, like, the chapel is your home and it's welcome and open to you, no matter who you are. If you're part of this installation, we want you to know that. So,
well, it seems very inviting. And the chaplains are always nice. I enjoy talking to the chaplains and getting to know them. And I'd like to get you guys back over here. Get Chaplain Jeffries and maybe a couple others to come on over, introduce themselves, see what they're all about and what they like and stuff.
That would be awesome. I would love for them to come and do that. Chaplain Jeffries is taking a much needed break right now.
Is it a sabbatical?
No, it's not a sabbatical.
Oh, okay, I'm going to have to look that word up.
That could be rather official. But so yeah, they would probably, I hope that they would love to do that because this is fun.
Of course. I like trying to make it fun.
Yeah. So
I got to get my listener all interested.
Yeah. So one more thing I do want to say that everybody doesn't know. There is a chaplain on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at our chapel or in our unit ministry team here on Fort Johnson. And so there is always somebody there available for you. And the other thing is that we can help with food insecurity problems. We do have a small food pantry where we just basically open our door at the chapel and say, hey, come on in.
You have any Pop-Tarts?
Get what you need. We don't have Pop-Tarts right now. We do have popcorn.
Ooh, popcorn
in there. Yeah. And so just to encourage people, just if you don't know and you want to know, come to the chapel. If you just need a place and a space, come to the chapel. You're always welcome. And yeah, we hope you come.
Well, that is so cool. That is so inviting. So helpful. Chris Gross with the RSO, I appreciate you coming on over and talking to me, spending some time with me, and all of our listener out there. And you can always come back anytime you want. You're more than welcome here, as we are at the chapel. And how many? Just one last question: how many chapels do we have on post? We have the main post chapel.
We have the main post chapel, which is where the religious support office is, and then we have Glory Chapel, which is in Glory Chapel Loop. It's at the corner of the golf course and the 310 footprint, and that's it.
Just two.
That's us. Yeah.
There was one across from the bowling alley.
There was. It used to be one of those little World War II
It did look like
yes.
It looked like one of those old school churches. It was very cool looking.
Army white.
I'm sure there's a picture of it or two somewhere around here.
Yeah, and there used to be one over by the MPs.
Oh, wow.
Remember that? Were you here when that one was there?
Probably.
Yeah, just a little one-room situation, just like the Airborne Chapel was.
Oh, how cool.
Beautiful little place.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming in, and I hope everyone out there got something, can show up over there and say, hey, I heard you on the podcast. And I'll say, oh, yeah, so you're the listener. No.
Come find the tall lady at the chapel.
The tall lady at the chapel. I appreciate it. And I appreciate everyone out there listening. If you have any ideas on what you would like to hear on our podcast, please go ahead and leave it in the comments. And be sure to subscribe and like our podcast wherever you're listening to it or watching it or whatever. And I am Jeff England from the Fort Johnson Public Affairs Office. And we are out of here.
That was easy.